The stars looked different from this far out. Captain Tae-jin stood on the bridge of the Harmony Dawn and watched the alien world grow larger on the viewing screen. Ashara Prime, the home planet of the Velshara Empire, a world humans had never visited before. "Captain, we're receiving their landing coordinates," said Hyawan from her station. She was the ship's linguist, responsible for making sure humans and aliens could understand each other. Her hands moved quickly over the control panel. "They want us to land at the capital city." Tae-jin nodded. His heart beat faster, but he kept his face calm. This was humanity's first official contact with the Velshara. Everything had to go perfectly. The Velshara controlled 40 star systems. They were powerful. They were advanced. And until now, they had ignored every message humanity sent them. Then 3 months ago, everything changed. The Velshara sent a message back. They wanted to meet. They wanted to talk. They invited humanity to send representatives to their homeworld. Tae-jin had been chosen to lead the mission. He was 34 years old and had spent 10 years in the colonial fleet. He had negotiated treaties with 3 other alien species. But none of those species were like the Velshara. None of them were this powerful or this mysterious. "Sir, should I wake up Dong-hyun?" asked the pilot. "Yes, tell him to put on his dress uniform. We land in 30 minutes. Dong-hyun was the security officer. He was a big man with steady hands and sharp eyes. Tae-jin trusted him completely. If something went wrong down there, Dong-hyun would keep them safe. The ship descended through purple clouds. The capital city came into view. It was enormous. Buildings made of crystal rose toward the sky like frozen lightning. Tae-jin had seen pictures, but they hadn't prepared him for this. The city was beautiful in a way that made his chest tight. They landed on a platform near the center of the city. Tae-jin, Hyewan, and Dong-hyun walked down the ramp together. Alien air filled Tae-jin's lungs. It smelled like rain and something sweet he couldn't name. A group of Velshara waited for them. Tae-jin had studied images of the Velshara for months, but seeing them in person was different. They stood on 6 legs. Their bodies were covered in armor that looked like it was made from dark purple metal, but it moved like skin. Each one had 4 arms. Their heads were triangular with multiple eyes that glowed softly. Behind them, crystalline wings caught the light and threw rainbow patterns across the ground. They looked nothing like humans. Nothing like any Earth creature. But they moved with grace and purpose. One of the Velshara stepped forward. "Welcome to Ashara Prime," it said. The translation device in Tae-jin's ear turned the clicking and humming sounds into words. "I am Teshka. I will guide you to the palace. Queen Calvera waits to meet you." "Thank you," Tae-jin said. He bowed slightly, the way he had practiced. "We are honored by your invitation." Teshka's wings shifted, creating a soft chiming sound. Then she turned and began walking. The humans followed. The city was even more impressive from the ground. The buildings seemed to grow from the earth rather than being built on it. Velshara moved through the streets in organized patterns. Some flew using their wings. Others walked. All of them stopped to stare at the humans. "They're curious about us," Hyewan whispered. "Can you blame them?" Dong-hyun replied quietly. "We probably look as strange to them as they do to us." The palace rose above everything else in the city. It was made entirely of crystal that shifted colors as they approached. Blue, then green, then gold. The entrance was huge, designed for beings much larger than humans. Inside, the palace was cool and quiet. Their footsteps echoed. Teshka led them through corridors lined with art that Tae-jin didn't understand but found beautiful anyway. Other Velshara watched them pass. Some clicked their mandibles. Others remained silent. Finally, they entered a massive chamber. The ceiling was so high that Tae-jin couldn't see the top. Hundreds of Velshara lined the walls. At the far end of the room, on a platform that rose like a wave, sat the queen. Calvera was larger than any Velshara Tae-jin had seen. She stood 3 meters tall. Her armor was darker than the others, almost black, but it shimmered with purple and blue. Her wings were spread behind her, and they looked like stained glass windows. The light passing through them created patterns on the floor that seemed to dance. For a moment, Tae-jin forgot to breathe. She was magnificent. Teshka bowed low. "Your Majesty, the humans have arrived." The queen's many eyes focused on them. Tae-jin felt the weight of her attention. He bowed as deeply as he could. Hyewan and Dong-hyun did the same. "Rise," the queen said. Her voice was deep and resonant. It filled the room. "You are Captain Tae-jin of Earth?" "Yes, Your Majesty." "I bring greetings from humanity. We hope to build friendship between our peoples. The queen was silent for a moment. Her mandibles moved slightly. Around the room, the other Velshara remained perfectly still. Friendship, the queen repeated. An interesting word. Before we discuss such things, I have a question for you, Captain. I will answer truthfully, Your Majesty. The queen leaned forward, her wings folded slightly. I have studied your species. I have read your transmissions. I have learned your languages. But there is something I must know before we proceed. Taijin waited, his heart hammered against his ribs. Captain Taijin, the queen said slowly. Am I ugly to you, human? The question hit him like a physical force. Of all the things he had prepared for, all the scenarios he had imagined, he had never expected this. The queen of the Velshara Empire, ruler of 40 star systems, was asking him if he thought she was ugly. The absurdity of it struck him, the unexpectedness. And before he could stop himself, before he could think about where he was or who he was speaking to, Taijin laughed. It wasn't a small laugh. It burst out of him loud and genuine. It echoed through the silent throne room. The moment the sound left his mouth, Taijin knew he had made a terrible mistake. The entire room seemed to freeze. Every Velshara went completely still. Haiwan's face went pale. Donghyun's hand moved toward his weapon. The queen's wings snapped open. The sound was like thunder. Her mandibles spread wide, and Taijin saw rows of sharp edges inside her mouth. Around the room, guards moved forward. They carried weapons that hummed with energy. You laugh, the queen said. Her voice had changed. It was cold now, dangerous. You mock me in my own palace. You insult the Velshara people. Your Majesty, I didn't mean... Taijin started. Silence. The word cracked like a whip. I extended my hand to your species. I opened my world to you, and you respond with mockery. Taijin's mind raced. He had to fix this. He had to explain. But the guards were surrounding them now. Their weapons were raised. Your Majesty, please, Iwan said quickly. In human culture, laughter doesn't always mean, take them to the guest quarters, the queen commanded. Lock them inside. I must consider what to do with them. Your Majesty, Taijin tried again, but the queen had already turned away. Her wings created a wall between them. The guards closed in. They didn't touch the humans, but they made it clear there was no choice. Taijin looked at Hwan and Donghyun. Their faces showed what he felt: fear, confusion, and the growing realization that he had just destroyed humanity's chance at peace with one of the most powerful species in the galaxy, all because he laughed at the wrong moment. The guest quarters were beautiful, but they were still a prison. Crystal walls let light through in strange colors. The furniture was too large for humans, designed for beings with 6 legs instead of 2. Taijin sat on something that might have been a chair and put his head in his hands. That could have gone better, Donghyun said. He stood by the door, checking if it would open. It didn't. Haiwan paced back and forth. She had been doing that for 10 minutes. Do you understand what you did? Do you understand what that question meant? I know, Taijin said quietly. I know I made a mistake. A mistake? Haiwan's voice rose. Captain, you might have just started a war. Taijin looked up at her. I didn't mean to laugh. It just happened. Why? Why did you laugh? Haiwan stopped pacing and stared at him. Of all the possible responses, why that one? Taijin tried to find the words. How could he explain? The queen had asked if she was ugly, but when he looked at her, all he had seen was beauty. Her wings catching the light, the way she held herself with such dignity and power, she had reminded him of something from his childhood. The old cathedral in Seoul where his grandmother had taken him. The way sunlight came through the stained glass windows, beautiful and sacred and overwhelming. The question and his thoughts had been so opposite that his brain had short-circuited, and he had laughed. I didn't think she was ugly, he said finally. That's why I laughed. The question was so unexpected, so wrong. But she doesn't know that, he once said. She sat down, exhaustion on her face. To her, you laughed at her appearance. And for the Velshara, that's one of the worst insults possible. Tell me about their culture, Taijin said. Help me understand what I did wrong. Hwan was quiet for a moment. Then she began to speak. I've been studying the Velshara for months, reading everything I could find. Their culture is built around aesthetics, around beauty and form. The way someone looks determines their place in society. Not entirely, but partially. Symmetry matters. Color patterns matter. The shape of their wings. The smoothness of their armor. Like a caste system based on appearance? Dong Hyun asked. Not exactly. More like, appearance is part of how they judge worth. A Velshara who is considered beautiful has more opportunities, more respect. And the queen must be the most beautiful of all. It's part of what gives her the right to rule. Tae-jin felt sick. So when she asked if I thought she was ugly, she was being vulnerable, Hee-won said. She was opening herself up to you, asking for your honest opinion. And you laughed in her face. But I didn't mean it that way. I have to tell her. I have to explain. How? We're locked in here, and even if we could talk to her, why would she believe you? Tae-jin stood up and walked to the wall. Through the crystal, he could see the city below. Velshara moved through the streets, going about their lives, not knowing that their queen might decide to go to war with humanity because a human captain couldn't control his nervous laughter. Hours passed. No one came to check on them. No one brought food or water. The light outside began to fade as the planet's sun set. Or maybe it had two suns. Tae-jin realized he didn't even know that basic fact about this world. He was a terrible diplomat. Just when he thought they would spend the entire night in silence, the door opened. Tae-jin jumped to his feet. Dong Hyun moved in front of Hee-won protectively. But it wasn't guards. It was Teshka, the Velshara who had guided them to the palace. She entered quickly and closed the door behind her. Her wings were folded tight against her body. Her eyes moved around the room nervously. I should not be here, she said quietly. If anyone discovers I came, I will be punished. Why did you come? Tae-jin asked. Because I do not want war, Teshka said. And because I think I understand what happened today. You do? Teshka moved closer. She was smaller than the queen, but still large compared to humans. I study alien cultures. It is my passion. I have learned about humans, about your expressions and your emotions. Laughter is not always mockery for your species, is it? No, Tae-jin said, feeling a spark of hope. It's not. Laughter can mean many things: joy, surprise, nervousness, release of tension. I thought so. But the queen does not understand this. None of my people do. We do not laugh. We do not have an equivalent expression. When you made that sound, everyone assumed it was mockery because that is the only reason we can imagine for such a response. Hee-won stepped forward. Can you explain this to the queen? Can you tell her it was a misunderstanding? Teshka's wings rustled. I tried. She will not listen to me. She is too hurt, too angry. The queen's advisors are telling her that humanity is dangerous, that you came here to make fools of us. Some are calling for your execution. The word hung in the air like a weight. There must be something we can do, Tae-jin said. Some way to prove I meant no insult. Teshka was silent for a long moment. Her eyes closed, then opened again. There is one way, but it is dangerous. Tell me. There is a ritual called the Kalthresh, the ritual of truth. When someone is accused of lying or deception, they can volunteer for this ritual. They drink a substance that makes it impossible to lie. Then they speak before witnesses. Everything they say must be true or their body will react violently. It is painful and obvious when someone tries to lie under its influence. That's perfect, Tae-jin said immediately. I'll do it. I'll take the ritual and explain what really happened. Captain, wait, Hee-won said. We should learn more about this substance first. It might not be safe for humans. It isn't, Teshka said bluntly. I accessed human medical data from your ship. The substance affects neurological function. For my people, it is uncomfortable but safe. For humans, it could cause permanent damage to your brain. You might lose memories. You might lose the ability to speak or think clearly. You might not survive it at all. The room fell silent. I'll do it anyway, Tae-jin said. Captain, no, Dong Hyun said. We'll find another way. There is no other way. Not in time. You heard her. They're talking about execution. About war. I won't let that happen because of my mistake. You could die, Hye-won said softly. Maybe. But if I do nothing, all of this falls apart. The alliance, the peace, everything we came here to build. I have to try. Teshka looked at him with her many eyes. You would risk your life for this? For a chance to explain? Yes, why? You could simply leave, return to your ship, flee this planet, save yourselves. Tae-jin thought about that. It would be easier, safer, but it would also doom any chance of peace between humans and the Velshara. And beyond that, it felt wrong. The Queen had been vulnerable with him. She had asked a question that clearly cost her something to ask, and he had hurt her even if accidentally. He owed her the truth. Because it's the right thing to do, he said finally. Because peace is worth the risk. And because I need her to understand that I didn't laugh at her. I could never laugh at her. She's one of the most beautiful beings I've ever seen. The words came out before he could stop them, but they were true. Teshka's wings spread slightly. It was a gesture Tae-Jin didn't understand. Very well, she said. I will arrange for you to perform the Cal Thresh tomorrow morning before the entire court. But you must understand, human. Once you drink the substance, there is no going back. You will speak nothing but truth until it leaves your system. Every secret, every thought, everything will be exposed. I understand. And if the truth you speak is not satisfying to the Queen, she may still order your death. I understand that too. Teshka moved toward the door, then paused. Captain Tae-Jin, I hope your people appreciate what you are willing to sacrifice for them. I hope the Queen hears your truth and understands. Because I have never seen an alien show such courage. She left as quietly as she came. Tae-Jin sat down. His hands were shaking. Tomorrow he would either save the Alliance or destroy it completely. Tomorrow he would speak truth before an alien queen and hope that truth was enough. Tomorrow he might die. But tonight, all he could do was wait. Morning came too quickly. Guards arrived at the guest quarters as the first light touched the crystal walls. They didn't speak. They simply opened the door and waited. Tae-Jin stood. He had barely slept. His mind had raced all night, thinking about what he would say, how he would explain. Now, walking through the palace corridors, he felt strangely calm. Fear had burned through him during the night and left him hollow, empty, ready. Hee-Wan and Dong-Hyun walked beside him. Both had tried to talk him out of this. Neither had succeeded. The guards led them to an enormous amphitheater. Tae-Jin's breath caught when he saw it. Thousands of Velshara filled the curved rows of seats. They created a sea of crystalline wings and dark armor. The morning sun came through the open roof and made everything glow. At the center of the amphitheater was a raised platform. Queen Calavera sat on a throne that seemed to grow from the stone itself. Around her stood her advisors and warriors. All of them watched as the humans approached. Teshika waited at the base of the platform. She held a small container that glowed with soft blue light. Captain Tae-Jin, the Queen's voice filled the space. You have requested the Cal Thresh, the ritual of truth. Do you understand what this means? Yes, Your Majesty. Tae-Jin's voice sounded steadier than he felt. You will drink the serum. You will speak only truth. If you lie, your body will betray you. If you survive the ritual, you will have spoken before my people. They will judge your words. I will judge your words, and then we will decide your fate. I understand. Why do you do this, human? Why risk yourself? Tae-Jin looked up at the Queen. Her wings were spread behind her, creating that stained glass window effect he had noticed before. Beautiful, powerful, impossible to look away from. Because I hurt you, he said simply, and I need you to understand that I didn't mean to. Something shifted in the Queen's posture. Her mandibles moved slightly. Then she gestured to Teshka. Give him the serum. Teshka climbed the platform steps to where Tae-Jin stood. She opened the container. Inside was a liquid that seemed to be made of light itself, blue and silver and constantly moving. Once you drink this, there is no stopping what comes next, she whispered. Are you certain? Tae-Jin took the container from her hands. It was warm. He could feel energy pulsing through it. For a moment, he hesitated. This could kill him. Even if it didn't, it could damage his brain permanently. He might forget important things. He might lose the ability to think clearly. But he had come this far. He couldn't turn back now. He drank. The liquid tasted like lightning and honey. It burned going down his throat. For a second, nothing happened. Then the world exploded. Colors became too bright. Sounds became too loud. Every nerve in his body sang with sensation. Tae-Jin fell to his knees. His vision blurred. His thoughts scattered like leaves in wind. He couldn't focus. Couldn't think. Couldn't. Then suddenly everything became clear. Too clear. Painfully clear. He could see every detail of every Velshara in the amphitheater. He could hear their breathing. Their small movements. He could feel the stone beneath his knees. The air moving across his skin. Everything was immediate and present and overwhelming, and in his mind filters disappeared. The walls between thought and speech crumbled. He knew with absolute certainty that anything he thought would come out of his mouth. There was no barrier anymore, no way to hold anything back. "Stand," the Queen commanded. Tae-jin stood. His legs shook, but they held. "Speak, human. Tell us why you laughed when I asked if I was ugly to you." The words came without him choosing them. "I laughed because the question surprised me, because it seemed impossible, because when I looked at you, all I saw was beauty." A ripple went through the assembled Velshara. Surprised movements. Confused clicking. "You claim I am beautiful?" the Queen asked. "Yet you laughed." "Yes, I laughed because my thoughts and your question didn't match. My brain couldn't process it. You asked if you were ugly, but I was thinking about how your wings reminded me of stained glass, of light through colored glass, of something sacred." The words kept flowing. Tae-jin couldn't stop them. "When I was young, my grandmother took me to an old cathedral in Seoul, a building made by humans hundreds of years ago. The windows were made of colored glass that showed stories. When sunlight came through them, it created patterns on the floor. Colors dancing, moving. I spent hours watching that light. It made me feel small and large at the same time. It made me feel like I was seeing something holy." Tae-jin looked directly at the Queen. "Your wings do the same thing. When light passes through them, they create patterns, colors that shouldn't exist together but somehow do. You are magnificent. The question of whether you might be ugly was so wrong, so impossible, that my brain short-circuited. And I laughed." The Queen leaned forward. "You humans laugh when something is impossible? Sometimes. We laugh when we're surprised, when we're happy, when we're nervous, when we're scared. Laughter is complicated for us. It can mean mockery, yes, but it can also mean joy, relief, confusion, the release of tension." The serum pushed more words out of him, words he hadn't planned to say. "Do you want to know what I really think, Your Majesty? Do you want to know what I see when I look at the Velshara?" "Speak." "I see a species that has conquered 40 star systems. That has built cities of crystal and light. That moves with grace I didn't know was possible. That has culture and art and civilization. That makes humanity look young and crude. I see beings who are beautiful in ways I don't have words to describe." Tae-jin's voice grew stronger, even as his body began to shake. The serum was taking its toll. He could feel it damaging him. But the words wouldn't stop. "But I also see fear. I see a species that asks if they are ugly because someone somewhere told them they were. Someone hurt you. Someone made you question yourselves. And that wound runs so deep that even your Queen, powerful and magnificent, still carries it." The amphitheater was completely silent now. "My species understands that wound," Tae-jin continued. "We carry our own. For thousands of years, humans hurt each other over appearance, the color of our skin, the shape of our eyes, the texture of our hair. We built entire systems of cruelty based on how people looked. We enslaved each other, killed each other, told each other we were ugly, we were less, we were wrong." His vision was starting to blur, but he kept talking. The truth kept pouring out. "When we first left Earth and met other species, many humans felt ugly. We don't have wings. We don't have armor. We're soft and breakable and plain. Some humans looked at beautiful aliens and hated themselves, hated how ordinary we seemed. But you know what I learned?" Tae-jin swayed on his feet. Hee-won moved forward to catch him, but the guard stopped her. "I learned that every species has beauty. Every species has their own ways of being magnificent. And I learned that the ones who ask, 'Am I ugly?' are usually the ones who have been hurt the most, who have been told they are less, who carry scars they shouldn't have to carry." He looked at the Queen. His eyes could barely focus anymore. "So when you asked if you were ugly to me, I didn't hear a question. I heard pain. I heard a wound. And the disconnect between that pain and the beauty I saw in you made me laugh. Not mockery, surprise, sadness. The human nervous system does strange things when emotions collide." Tae-jin's legs gave out. He fell. This time the guards let Hee-won catch him. She lowered him carefully to the platform. "Keep talking," the Queen commanded. "The ritual is not finished. What else do you want to know?" Tae-jin's words slurred. Blood ran from his nose. The serum was destroying something in his brain. He could feel it. "Do you truly find my people beautiful?" "Yes, Your Majesty. You are one of the most beautiful beings in the galaxy. And I'm sorry. Sorry that someone hurt you enough that you had to ask. Sorry that my laughter made it worse. Sorry that I couldn't control my reaction better. What did you hope to gain by coming here? Peace, understanding. I wanted our species to be friends. I wanted to learn from you. I wanted to share art and music and stories. I wanted humans and Velshara to look at each other and see beauty, not strangeness. I wanted to build something good. And now I'm dying. The serum is killing me. I can feel it. My thoughts are scattering. Soon I won't be able to speak. Maybe I won't be able to think. But that's okay. If my death makes you understand that the laughter wasn't mockery, then it's worth it. If my death protects the chance for peace, then it's worth it. Taejin's vision was going dark around the edges. He looked up at the queen one last time. You're beautiful. Never let anyone tell you different. Never let old wounds make you doubt yourself. You're beautiful. And I'm sorry I didn't say that first instead of laughing. The darkness closed in. Taejin felt himself falling, but he never felt himself hit the ground. Taejin woke up 3 days later. He opened his eyes slowly, expecting pain. Instead, he felt nothing. Numbness. Floating, the ceiling above him was crystal, like everything else on this planet. Light moved through it in patterns that seemed familiar. He watched it for a while, trying to remember where he was. Ishara Prime. The Velshara homeworld. The ritual. He tried to sit up. His body obeyed, which surprised him. He had expected to be paralyzed, dead, something worse than just weak. You're awake. The voice came from beside his bed. Taejin turned his head and saw Queen Calvera sitting in a chair that seemed too small for her. She had been watching him, Your Majesty. His voice was rough, dry. How long? 3 days. You collapsed after the ritual. Your body began shutting down. My physicians worked alongside your ship's medical officer to save you. It was uncertain whether you would survive. Taejin looked around the room. It was large and comfortable. Medical equipment stood nearby, some of it human design, some Velshara. Through a window he could see the crystal city stretching toward the horizon. Where are Haiwan and Donghyun? Safe, waiting to see you. I told them I wanted to speak with you first when you woke. The queen stood and walked to the window. Her wings caught the light, creating those patterns he had tried to describe during the ritual. Stained glass, sacred light. You almost died for words, she said quietly. For the truth, why? Taejin tried to find an answer. His mind still felt foggy from the serum, but clearer than he expected. Because the truth mattered. Because you deserved to understand. I heard every word you spoke. The entire court heard. The recording has been distributed throughout the empire. Billions of Velshara have heard a human speak truth about beauty and pain and wounds we carry. She turned to face him. You said someone hurt us, made us question ourselves. You were right. The queen moved closer to the bed. Centuries ago, the Velshara were a young species exploring the galaxy. We encountered another civilization. They were more advanced, more powerful. And they laughed at us, called us insects, vermin, said we were ugly creatures who should stay hidden in our corner of space. Her mandibles clicked softly, a sound of old anger, old pain. We withdrew, closed our borders, avoided contact with other species. We built our civilization in isolation because we were afraid of being mocked again, of being called ugly, of being told we were less. I'm sorry, Taejin said. I'm sorry that happened to you. When I became queen, I wanted to change this. I wanted to open our borders again, to join the galactic community. But I was afraid. What if others saw us the way that ancient species did? What if we were ugly to them too? She sat down again, bringing her eyes level with his. So I invited humans to visit. Your species seemed kind in your transmissions, curious, open. I thought perhaps you would be different, and I decided to ask the question that haunted me, to face the fear directly. And I laughed, Taejin said softly. And you laughed. In that moment, all my fears seemed confirmed. But then you took the ritual. You risked your life to speak truth. And the truth you spoke, but the queen's wings rustled. It broke something in me, something that needed to break. What do you mean? You said I was beautiful. But more than that, you said I was asking the question because I had been hurt. You saw past the question to the wound beneath it. No one has ever done that before. You understood. The queen reached out with one of her 4 hands. She placed it gently on the bed beside Taejin. You also said your species carries similar wounds, that you hurt each other over appearance for thousands of years. Is this true? Yes, humans can be cruel to each other. We've gotten better, but we're not perfect. We still have to work at seeing beauty in difference. Then we have more in common than I thought. The Queen stood. Rest now. Heal. When you are strong enough, I want to show you something. She walked toward the door, then paused. Captain Tae-jin, thank you for the truth. Thank you for being brave enough to be vulnerable. It is a gift I will not forget. Then she was gone. Tae-jin lay back down. His head hurt. His body ached. But he was alive. And somehow, impossibly, things might be okay. The next day, Hee-won and Dong-hyun were allowed to visit. Hae-won hugged him carefully, crying. Dong-hyun gripped his shoulder and said nothing, which was his way of showing deep emotion. We thought we lost you, Hae-won said. When you collapsed, there was so much blood. The Queen's physician said the serum had damaged your neural pathways, that you might not wake up, or if you did, you might not remember anything. I remember, Tae-jin said. Everything. Maybe too much. The Queen has been here every day, Dong-hyun said, checking on you, making sure you had the best care. She canceled all her other duties to oversee your treatment personally. She told me about their history, about why she asked that question. Hae-won nodded. Teshka told us more too. The Velshara have been isolated for centuries, because of one bad encounter with another species. They've been carrying that wound for so long that it shaped their entire culture. Sounds familiar, Tae-jin said, thinking about human history. By the 5th day, Tae-jin was strong enough to walk. The Queen came to his room again. Come, she said. I want to show you something. She led him through the palace, moving slowly to match his pace. Guards followed at a distance, but the Queen waved them back. It was just the two of them walking through crystal corridors. They arrived at a door that seemed more important than the others. It was sealed with symbols Tae-jin couldn't read. This is the Gallery of Forms, the Queen said, our most sacred place. Only the royal family and highest priests are usually allowed inside. But I want you to see it. The door opened. Inside was a long hall filled with displays. Each display held something that looked like a large shell or cocoon. They were beautiful, crystalline, and unique. These are the metamorphosis shells of every queen throughout our history, Calvera explained. When a Velshara transforms from larva to adult, we leave behind the shell. It preserves the moment of our becoming. She walked to one particular display. The shell there was darker than the others, with patterns of purple and blue. This is mine, she said quietly. I was considered unusual when I emerged. My colors were too dark. My wings were shaped differently. Some said I would never be beautiful enough to be queen, that I should step aside for a sibling. Tae-jin looked at the shell, then at the Queen. But you became queen anyway. Yes. Because I was strong, because I was smart, because I led my people well. But the doubts never left. The questions never stopped. Am I beautiful enough? Am I worthy? Do others see me as less? She turned to face him. Until you answered. Until you looked at me and saw something sacred. Something beautiful. Not despite my appearance, but because of it. Your Majesty, you are beautiful. But even if you weren't, you would still be worthy. Worth isn't determined by appearance. I know that in my mind, the Queen said. But knowing and believing are different things. You helped me believe it. They walked further into the gallery. The Queen showed him shells from queens who had ruled 1,000 years ago. 2,000. She told him stories about each one. Their victories, their failures, their doubts. Every queen who has ever ruled has stood before these shells and wondered if she was enough, Calvera said. It is a weight we all carry. Humans call that imposter syndrome, Tae-jin said. The feeling that you're not good enough even when you clearly are. Even when you've proven yourself again and again. Your species has a name for it. Yes, because we all feel it sometimes. Leaders, artists, scientists, ordinary people. We all doubt ourselves. We all wonder if we're enough. The Queen was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I want to propose something, Captain Tae-jin. An alliance between our peoples. But not just political, cultural. I want to share our art with humans. I want to see your art. I want our species to teach each other about beauty and worth and all the ways we struggle with these ideas. I think that would be wonderful. Your Majesty, there is one condition. I want you to stay here as the first human ambassador to Ashara Prime, to continue building bridges between our peoples. Tae-jin smiled. I would be honored. But as they left the gallery, Tae-jin noticed some of the guards watching them with expressions he couldn't read. Not everyone was happy about this alliance. Not everyone wanted humans here. The next day, Teshka came to him with a warning. "There are those who oppose the Queen's decision," she said quietly. "War Commander Veshanal leads them. He believes opening to humans makes the Velshara weak. He wants to maintain isolation. And he is planning something. I don't know what, but I fear for the Queen. For you. For this alliance." Tae-jin felt the weight of her words. They had survived one crisis. But another was coming. The battle for peace wasn't over yet. The Festival of Ascension came like a storm. The entire city transformed. Crystal buildings were decorated with lights and flowing fabrics. Velshara from across the empire arrived by the thousands. The streets filled with color and movement and sound. Tae-jin stood on a balcony in the palace and watched the preparations. He had recovered fully from the ritual. His memories were intact. His ability to think clearly had returned. The Velshara physicians had done remarkable work, and so had his medical officer Jiwoo, who had arrived from the ship to help. "It's beautiful," Hyawan said beside him. She had been working day and night preparing a presentation for the festival. A paper on how humans and Velshara both understood beauty differently, but dealt with similar insecurities. "It is," Tae-jin agreed, "but I can't shake the feeling that something is wrong." Dong-hyun joined them. "Teshika's warning?" "Yes. Veshanal hasn't made any obvious moves, but I've seen how he looks at the Queen. At us. He's waiting for something. The festival is the perfect time," Hyewan said. "Everyone will be distracted. Security will be focused on the crowds. If he's planning something, it will happen soon." The festival lasted a week. Each day brought new events. Velshara artists displayed their work. Warriors demonstrated their fighting techniques. Scientists presented discoveries. And throughout it all, the Queen presided with grace and dignity. She had invited humans to participate, making it clear that they were honored guests. Hyewan presented her paper to a hall full of Velshara scholars. They listened intently as she spoke about beauty as a cultural construct, about how different species valued different things, about how everyone struggled with feeling worthy. Dong-hyun gave a demonstration of human martial arts. The Velshara were fascinated by how humans could fight despite being so much smaller and softer than most species. He explained about leverage, speed, and using an opponent's strength against them. Engineers from the ship, including Byung-ho, worked with Velshara technicians to create a joint display. They combined human holographic technology with Velshara crystal crafting. The result was stunning. Images that seemed solid but were made of light, all flowing through crystalline structures. Tae-jin walked through the festival, watching humans and Velshara interact. There was curiosity on both sides. Sometimes awkwardness, but also genuine interest. Genuine respect. This was what peace looked like. Different species learning from each other, seeing beauty in each other. But on the final day of the festival, Veshanal made his move. The ceremony was held in the great amphitheater where Tae-jin had taken the ritual. The Queen stood before her people, wings spread, preparing to receive their affirmation of her rule. It was tradition. Every year the Velshara people renewed their support for their Queen. Tae-jin stood with the other human delegates in a place of honor. He watched as thousands of Velshara performed the ritual gestures of loyalty. Then Veshanal stepped forward. He was large, even for a Velshara. His armor was scarred from battles. His wings were darker than most, almost black. He moved with the confidence of someone who had killed many times and expected to kill again. "I invoke the Kalveshra," he announced. His voice carried through the amphitheater. The challenge of vision. The crowd went silent. The Queen's mandibles clicked sharply. "You challenge me?" she asked. "On what grounds?" "On the grounds that you have betrayed our people. You have opened our borders to aliens. You have told the galaxy that we seek their approval. You have made us weak by caring what others think of us." Veshanal turned to face the crowd. The Queen asked a human if she was ugly. She humiliated herself and all of us. She showed vulnerability to an alien species, and now she invites them to our most sacred festival. She dilutes our culture with their influence. This is not strength. This is weakness. Some in the crowd clicked their mandibles in agreement. Others remained silent. The Queen stood perfectly still. "And what would you have me do, War Commander? Remain isolated? Hide from the galaxy? Yes, we are Velshara. We need no one else. We were strong before we met other species. We can be strong again." "That is not strength," the Queen said. "That is fear." "Then let us test who is right." I challenge your vision for our people. Let the Velshara decide who they wish to follow. This was it. The moment Teshka had warned about. Taejin felt his heart race. If the queen lost this challenge, everything they had built would collapse. But before the queen could respond, Taejin stepped forward. I request the right to speak, he said loudly. Veshnal turned to look at him. This does not concern you, human. It concerns me greatly. You say the queen was wrong to ask me if she was ugly. But I'm the one who answered. I'm the one who laughed. If there was any offense, it was mine to give or receive. Let me speak in her defense. You have no standing here, Veshnal said. You are not Velshara. There is precedent, Teshka called out from the crowd. She moved forward carrying data tablets. Ancient law allows for an advocate from any species to speak in defense of a queen during a challenge of vision. It has not been invoked in 1,000 years, but the law still exists. The queen looked at Taejin. Her eyes were unreadable. Then she nodded. I accept Captain Taejin as my advocate. Veshnal's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. Very well. Let the human speak. Let us hear what weak words he offers. Taejin walked to the center of the platform. Thousands of eyes watched him. He thought about what to say, how to make them understand. Then he realized he didn't need to explain. He needed to show them. War Commander Veshnal says the queen showed weakness by asking if she was ugly. He says she humiliated you all. But I don't think weakness means what he thinks it means. Taejin turned to face the crowd. Strength isn't pretending you have no doubts. Strength isn't hiding behind walls and refusing to let anyone see your vulnerabilities. Real strength is facing your fears. Real strength is asking difficult questions even when the answers might hurt. The queen didn't ask if she was ugly because she was weak. She asked because she was brave enough to face the question that haunted her people for centuries. She asked because she wanted truth, not comfortable lies. And yes, I laughed. But not because I thought she was ugly. I laughed because the question was so wrong, so impossible, that my brain couldn't process it. I laughed because when I looked at your queen, I saw something magnificent, beautiful, sacred. Taejin walked toward where the human engineers had set up their display. We created something for this festival. A gift from humanity to the Velshara. I'd like to show it to you now. Byung-ho activated the display. The holographic projectors came to life. The crystalline structures began to glow. Images appeared in the air above the amphitheater. Not just images. Living history. First came scenes from Earth. Humans throughout history. Different skin colors. Different facial features. Different body types. Images of humans being cruel to each other over these differences. Slavery. War. Genocide. All because some humans thought other humans were ugly. Wrong. Less. Then came images of change. Humans learning to see beauty in diversity. Humans standing together despite differences. Art from different cultures, music, dance, all the ways humans express themselves. Next came images of the Velshara. Their history as Taejin had learned it. The ancient encounter with the species that had mocked them. The retreat into isolation. Centuries of hiding. And then images of their art. Their cities. Their culture. All the beauty they had created while hiding from the galaxy. The images merged. Human and Velshara art side by side. Similar themes. Similar struggles. Both species asking the same questions. Are we beautiful? Are we worthy? Are we enough? The final image showed Queen Calvera and Taejin standing together. Light passing through her wings. Creating patterns. Two different species. Both carrying wounds. Both trying to heal. This is what your queen's question led to, Taejin said as the images faded. Not weakness, understanding. Not humiliation, connection. She showed me that the Velshara carry the same doubts humans do. And I showed her that she's not alone in those doubts. War Commander Veshnal wants you to stay isolated. To stay safe behind your walls. But safety isn't the same as strength. And isolation isn't the same as pride. Taejin turned to face Veshnal directly. Your queen didn't make you weak by opening your borders. She made you brave enough to be vulnerable. And vulnerability is the greatest strength there is. Veshnal's wings spread wide. Pretty words. But words change nothing. I challenge you to prove your conviction, human. Face me in combat. If you win, I will accept the queen's path. If I win, the alliance ends and you die. The crowd gasped. Combat challenges were serious. Usually fought to the death, I accept, Taejin said before anyone could stop him. Captain, no, Donghyun called out. Let me fight in your place. This is my fight, Tae-jin said. My words. My responsibility. The Queen stood. Captain Tae-jin, you don't have to do this. Yes, I do, Your Majesty. Because peace is worth fighting for. Because your courage deserves to be matched with my own. Because someone has to prove that vulnerability isn't weakness. Veshnal moved to the combat circle. His weapons extended from his armor. Sharp blades designed for killing. Tae-jin stepped forward. He had no weapons, no armor. Just himself. The fight began. Veshnal was faster, stronger. His 6 limbs gave him advantages Tae-jin couldn't match. Within